come here and we just get run over by Lebanese and oh cool. They come here, they disrespect the women, they disrespect the beach. They just leave a lot of hate here.
The riots that existed in France. You remember that of last year. And here's a quotation from the article. This is from the Associated Press, November 4, 2005. Aubervilliers, France, marauding bands of Muslim youth set fire to cars and warehouses and pelted rescuers with rocks early Saturday as the worst rioting in a decade spread from Paris to other French cities. The United States warned Americans against taking trains to the airport by way of the strife-torn areas. A savage assault on a bus passenger highlighted the dangers of travel in Paris, in Paris's Muslim-filled and impoverished outlying neighborhoods where the violence has entered its second week. An African immigrant attackers doused the woman in her 50s and on her crutches with an inflammable liquid and set her afire as she tried to get off of a bus in the suburb of Severn Wednesday, judicial officials said. The bus had been forced to stop because of burning objects in its path. She was rescued by the driver and hospitalized with severe burns. Justice Minister Pascal Clement deplored the incident, saying it caused him great emotion. Now, all over the world, after this incident took place, now let's get this incident straight in our minds. We have a situation where a gang of Muslim youths stop a bus. An elderly woman on crutches gets off the bus. They throw flammable liquid upon her and set her afire. They burn her alive. They burn her alive. Now, all over the world, the mainstream media describes the rioters that existed in France as youths. At every opportunity, the TV news will only show the scattered and rare white communist throwing a firebomb, while ignoring the overwhelmingly clear fact that the riots are driven by a racial motivation, a racial hatred against all things European. Once in a while, a little truth ekes out in the controlled media. The Associated Press article quoted makes it very clear who the rioters are, and it shows the brutality of the savages. And that's who those rioters were. They were savages who were turning centers of European refinement and culture and civilization into examples of some of the darkest horrors of Africa. Now, let me ask you a question. How do you think the mainstream press would have treated this story if white attackers had stopped a bus and an elderly, crippled black woman got off the bus and they doused her with gasoline or lighter fluid and they set her afire? How do you think the media would have reacted to it? Do you think the minister would have simply said, "I react to it with great emotion"? Or do you think the French government would go on there and talked about the incredible racial hatred that exists among white people for minorities? They would have talked about the fact that the French government would use every resource to hunt down the criminals, the savages that would commit such a horrible and heinous act against an innocent person. You probably, even here, very close to Paris, didn't even hear about this act. I think most of the people in this room didn't even know this existed. Most people in Europe didn't even hear about it. But if it would have been a black woman victim of this attack, do you think it would not have been on the front page of every newspaper in Europe and every newspaper around the world about the heinous aspects of white racism or crime and the terrible reactions against the immigrants?
a country lane. Wherever there's a cottage small beside a field of grain, there'll always be an England while there's a busy street. Wherever there's a turning wheel, a million marching feet. Red, white and blue, what does it mean to you? Surely you're proud, shout it aloud, Britain's awake. The Empire too, we can depend on you. Freedom remains, these are the chains nothing can break. There'll always be an England, and England shall be free.
Scuffles broke out between Asians and whites, and this shocking attack ended in a brutal stabbing.
Jesus, stabbed. You've been stabbed.
Oh my, that is outrageous!
Multiculturalism just hasn't worked. You just got to admit it. That's what the whole thing's all about. It just doesn't work. Muslims and Christians, you know, it's happening in France, it's happening in Canada, it's happening everywhere. Or we're just not think it's going to happen here.
I am becoming racist. I will tell you, I am becoming racist.
I think we're the ones discriminated against, really. Why?
The law doesn't protect the innocent. The law is given all the rights to the guilty. It is.
Not only that.
Yeah, well, you don't think that if, those people that crashed the lifeguards the other day, you don't think they're going to get jail time?
No. They'll say they're the ones discriminated against.
So what do you think when you see a young Lebanese man come down to the beach? What do you think immediately?
Well, nothing. I don't judge him because, I mean, my cousin used to be married to a Lebanese. You know, I mean, I don't judge them. It's what they do, what their intention of why they come here, and it's obvious later on. I mean, I take everybody, you know, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, once you jumped on, it's too late. Yeah, you're the one that's injured. And
what scares me is, what is Australia going to be in 50 years' time? I've got a 10-year-old grandson, and what is it going to be like for him? Unless they can change the law, and I don't think that'll ever happen now.
Change the law to what?
I mean, they've got no respect. They've got no respect for any of our laws.
I heard there were reports in some of the papers today that there were neo-Nazi groups down here yesterday trying to cause trouble.
No, they weren't trying to cause trouble, they were just handing out flyers. They weren't neo-Nazis. They were skinheads, but just because they've got shaved heads doesn't mean they don't like Asians.
But do you think that their presence kind of influenced the violence?
They didn't lie. No, not at all. Not at all. You know, there wasn't any specific violence towards anyone that wasn't